Okay, let's dive right in. Latin America is in the middle of this incredible digital boom. But here's the thing. All that progress has a dark side. We're talking about a cyber crisis that's hitting everyone, from governments all the way down to regular citizens. So today, we're going to break down how this entire region became, well, a playground for hackers.
You know, a national emergency doesn't always start with a bang. Sometimes it starts with a simple text message. For Jorge Mora, who was a top digital official in Costa Rica, that's exactly how it happened. It was Easter Sunday, of all days. He thought he'd be gone for a few days. Turned out to be 3 weeks. That text was the first domino to fall.
And that warning on his phone? It was about a breach at Costa Rica's finance ministry. But listen, this wasn't just some random hack. This was the opening shot of a digital siege by one of the world's most infamous ransomware groups. And the chaos that followed? Well, it sent a massive shockwave across the whole of Latin America. So that brings up a big question, right? Why Latin America? What makes the region such a, let's say, perfect target for these digital criminals? The answer, it's in this really dangerous vulnerability gap that's been growing for years. Just look at this imbalance for a second. Latin America has about 8% of the world's population. Okay, but it gets hit with 12% of all global cyber attacks. That's not a coincidence. It's a huge flashing neon sign to attackers that says, hey, the doors are open over here. It tells them the region is a soft and very lucrative target.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because it shows you the why. It's literally a perfect storm. You've got this massive, super fast push to get everything online. Banking, government services, you name it. But it's all being built on top of old, outdated infrastructure. Then you throw in widespread software piracy, which is like handing hackers a key. And the final ingredient? A serious shortage of trained people to actually defend any of it.
And that skills gap we just mentioned? It's not a small number. We're talking about an estimated 600,000 missing cybersecurity professionals across Latin America. That isn't just a gap, that's a chasm. It's a massive void in the digital defensive line, and it basically leaves the gates wide open.
Okay, so we've established the vulnerabilities are there. But what happens when hackers actually decide to exploit them? We're not talking about your computer running a little slow. We're talking about real-world, society-stopping chaos. Let's jump back to Costa Rica for a minute. So after that first breach, the Conti Group locked up the finance ministry's data and demanded $10 million. The government said no, and that's when things went from bad to worse. Tax collection, frozen. International trade at the border, ground to a halt, forcing them back to pen and paper. It got so bad that the brand new president declared a national state of emergency, a world first for a cyber attack. And just when you think it's over, another group attacks the healthcare system, canceling 30,000 medical appointments. The country was literally being held hostage by code.
And here's the chilling part. The hackers themselves called the Costa Rica attack a demo, a demonstration, and they weren't bluffing. Soon enough, they took their show on the road, proving that no one in the region was really safe. The digital plague was spreading.
I mean, just look at this wave of attacks. In Mexico, they leaked national defense secrets in the president's own health records. In Colombia, a huge healthcare provider was crippled, putting thousands of patients at risk. Argentina, their entire national ID database was breached and put up for sale. Yeah, including Lionel Messi's. And in Chile, attackers used something called double extortion. They didn't just lock the government's files, they threatened to leak them publicly. The message was loud and clear. Absolutely nothing is off limits.
So you have to be wondering, who are these digital ghosts causing all this mayhem? Well, it's not one single group. The attackers generally fall into 3 very different and very dangerous categories.
And this breakdown really shows you the different motivations we're dealing with. It's not a single enemy. On one side, you have the e-crime groups, like Conti. They're in it for one thing and one thing only: money. Then you have your nation-state actors. Think digital spies from places like China and North Korea. They're not after cash, they're after intelligence, secrets, a strategic edge. And finally, you have the hacktivists, like the group Guacamaya. They leak data to make a political point, to protest against governments or corporations they don't like. Okay, so faced with this relentless attack from all sides, governments are finally waking up and realizing that, thoughts and prayers aren't going to cut it. They're starting to build a real legal shield to protect their citizens' data. And this is what that new legal framework is starting to look like.
Brazil passed its big LGPD law, creating a whole new national authority just to enforce data rules. Mexico took a different approach, moving oversight into a government ministry. And Chile? They just stood up their own dedicated data protection agency. These are huge, crucial steps. And it's pretty clear that every country is kind of forging its own path here.
But look, laws are just words on paper, right? That's only one piece of the puzzle. To really build up a defense, leaders are now looking beyond just the legal text. They're focusing on a proactive, multi-layered strategy.
So what's the game plan? How does the region actually fight back? Well, it really boils down to three key things that leaders are focusing on. First, use AI to automate defenses and spot threats way faster than any human could. Second, set up these things called ISACs. They're basically hubs where the government and private companies can share threat info and cooperate, instead of everyone fighting these battles alone. And third, and this is the big one, go all in on developing talent to finally close that massive 600,000-person skills gap. It's a clear strategy: technology, collaboration, and people.
So the shield is being built, piece by piece. But the threats, they're changing every single day, getting smarter, faster, more sophisticated. It's a race, plain and simple, a race between the defenders and the attackers. And the outcome is going to decide the future of security and stability for all of Latin America. Which leaves us with the one critical question: can this new shield actually hold up against the next attack?